Hello, and welcome back to the Agreeable Gray Area podcast. I am your host, Elle, and thank you so much for joining me. Right now, it is Sunday, August 14th, 2022. It's like a little after 9 p.m. I am feeling pretty good. The topic I do want to talk about is something that's not so good, not the worst thing, but like it's more so something you just have to be mindful of. Um Pretty much like protecting. I'm sure you've heard people say like, "Oh, protect your peace," or protect your energy, or be mindful of that. Um what's funny is like one of my friends, he just made a podcast about protecting your peace, but it's been something that I've had written down. Like I have a list of podcast ideas, and it's just something that I've been thinking about for a while. So, yeah, like I know that may sound kind of vague, or or it might sound kind of, in a way, selfish. Protecting your peace, or how people seem to be doing it. It may come off as, yeah, like selfish or inconsiderate, especially of others. And honestly, that's their business, because you really do have to check in on yourself, especially when nobody else is. You really have to check in on yourself and, just be aware of when somebody is just stealing your good vibes, like your happiness, your energy, when somebody's just kind of, yeah, like, and like the sucky part about it is that you don't really realize it until, I don't want to say until it's too late, but until way later. At least for me, this is how it's been happening with me whenever I do meet people who are like energy destroyers, like anti-peace people. Kidding. But and I guess it's just, I get better with age, trying to figure out, or just realizing rather, when somebody is not happy, or just like not as cool as I thought they were. I'll be straight up honest with that. Like, you think you meet someone and they're, like they're cool and everything, and then all of a sudden, like they're just being an asshole. And you leave the conversation, you leave, hanging out with them, or if you're like texting them or whatever, you don't feel like you really got anything out of it. You feel like you've kind of lost things out of it. Not like win or lose, but like I don't know, just something just kind of gets drained out of you. Like you feel exhausted, you feel incomplete, like not fulfilled, rather. Yeah, not like incomplete, but like you don't feel fulfilled. We've all had really awesome like conversations. We've all had really great, awesome conversations with people. You leave the conversation, you're like, wow, I feel like I could just take on the world. I feel like I could do anything. I can climb a mountain. I could, start this project. I could start this podcast. I could, draw the next Sistine Chapel, whatever. And then you have these conversations, and like you leave feeling like a little bruised, like a little like hurt. You feel drained. You feel like you just did a workout while, hungover. Like it's like you don't feel like you've gotten anything out of it. But you don't really realize it's the person. Sometimes you might think, "Oh, this was just a tough conversation." And then when you have a similar conversation with somebody else, it's not as draining. You have the same conversation, you actually laugh, you actually, nod and agree. You may disagree, however, you don't feel like this person is trying to talk over you or try to like put words in your mouth. You don't feel like this person is trying to confuse you. You don't feel like this person is trying to prove themselves or make themselves or trying to come off like they're better than you or something. Or like, like any of those things where you just feel like something was just gravely missing. And you can't really put your finger on it because there are so many people like that. There are so many people who are just so shitty at conversation, who are just so shitty at being able to express themselves that it sort of just becomes the norm. I've been told this several times from like several different people, that I'm like a great listener, that I don't listen to respond, I listen to understand. And I take great pride in that. I'm very grateful for this skill, I guess you can call it. I guess listening is a skill. Like, because listening isn't just nodding along or staring at the person in the eyes while they're talking, or just going, yeah, yeah, or just like repeating the last couple of words that they said. They're like, oh yeah, so my son went fishing. Oh, he went fishing. Right. And, he wasn't able to catch anything. Oh, he didn't catch anything. Like that, you're not really listening. You're just repeating the last couple of words that, the person is saying. But we are, people, I feel, are just really bad at listening, especially listening with the intent to understand, that they just don't really know how to communicate. Because listening is part of communication. It's the other half of it. Being able to talk and express yourself is one half of communication, and the other person who's like listening and being receptive and trying to understand, asking questions to clarify certain things that they, may not quite understand about what you just said. Bringing certain things that you set up later, and like say like, oh, I remember you said that you really like cows. I found this really funny meme about cows or something. Or when someone may say something and like you thought you understood it, and you say and then you bring it up later, you say something, and then they're like, oh no, I didn't really mean it that way, this is how I meant it. And they're like, oh, okay. Because, when you're talking in the moment, you may not be able to explain or convey things in a way that's not necessarily easy to understand, but it may not have gotten through to the other person who is listening. So that's usually the signs of a good listener. And, and I feel as though people desperately fucking need someone to talk to. So when they meet someone who's a great listener, who actually genuinely listens, they jump on that and take so much advantage of that they forget that the person that they're talking to is a whole ass person. Like a whole entire person, like they pay taxes and everything, like they have a W-2, they go to work, they have hobbies, they have problems, that they would like to talk to people about. But when people are just like really are soul suckers or energy depleters, they sort of forget that, I guess. Maybe I'm being too nice. Maybe they don't forget and they really just don't give a shit. I don't know. But they tend to skip over your feelings. They tend to skip over the fact that you're a person. I'm not saying that this doesn't happen to men. It definitely does. It happens to, everybody. This definitely happens to women more so. The amount of conversations I've had with women, especially when they go on dates with men, and the man is just talking about themselves the entire date. I've been on countless dates like that. Countless. And I barely say anything, or I may get like 7 words in and then they interrupt me, then continue talking for 3-4 minutes. And it's just really fucking exhausting because I feel like I'm battling him to just converse while this is just how he talks. So he's in his zone and I'm like, I need to get out of this fucking zone of this way of communicating because it sucks ass. And then the next day he texts me saying, oh my goodness, I had such a great conversation with you. You're such a great listener. I feel like I could talk to you all day. And it's like, well, yeah, you can. I mean, you might as well just talk to a fucking wall all day. I don't know why I'm even here. Like, I don't think you realized that I had things to say. And considering from this follow-up text, it doesn't seem like you even care about what I had to say. You're just still thinking about yourself and how great of a listener I was, or how great of a conversation it was, even though it wasn't. Anywho, so I believe that a lot of people are so desperate for just people to communicate with, because a lot of people just aren't listening anymore, and they need to emote. They need to verbalize what they need to do, or like how they're feeling rather. They need to talk about their life, what's going on, etc. and so forth. Like, we are social beings. We're social creatures, so we need to socialize. But I don't know if it's social media, this sudden rise in narcissism I feel like is occurring because of social media. I don't know if it's because of I don't know. I can't pinpoint exactly why everybody needs to talk and nobody is listening. But yeah. Like that's usually like my issue, where when I tend to meet people, no matter the gender, who just love to talk, and I never really get anything that I need to say out. And to me, that's someone who, like definitely sucks in energy. Who, they absorb your energy, and then therefore your energy depletes. It's not always the fact that they talk a lot that sucks out your energy. I understand that this may be like a form of, if you're introverted or whatever. It's more so what they talk about or how they talk. The saying, misery loves company? That is very true. And a lot of people don't know that they are miserable. A lot of people don't really realize just how negative they themselves are. I am what's that called? Like a high functioning depression, like a high functioning depressive person. Or I suffer from high functioning depression. I don't know how to word it, but when I think back, because I've been working on it. I see a therapist. I work out. I eat better. I try to go out more and socialize with people, and just try to do things that actually make me happy, and like watch funny shows, play video games, because depression kind of takes away the things that you love and enjoy, like bit by bit. So when I look back on myself and how I used to talk and how I used to think and like the things I would say, I realized just how negative it was. And at the time, of course, I didn't really realize that. I didn't really realize I thought so lowly of myself. Like, I knew I wasn't thinking the most positive of myself, but I didn't know how low I was. You know, like my mom was like, I'm thinking about back in 2019 when I started this job, and it's, you know, like a great job, and I was very intimidated to start it, but I needed to because my mom had just moved in with me, and I was working a contract job, and you know the contract was about to be over, so it's like I need like an actual full-time job to support my mom because she needs to save money to get the fuck out of my house. But so I started this company. Well, not I didn't start the company. I started working at this company, and you know, like I was just very intimidated because it's a fantastic company, and it still is. And I remember just being very intimidated, and my mom wasn't the most positive person. At the time, I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. I was like 190. I was like getting to 200 pounds. It was like kind of crazy. And my mom would always constantly talk about my looks. I don't know if I've mentioned this in a previous episode. My mom would always constantly talk about my looks. And then I would have to go to work, and I felt mad self-conscious because the people I worked with were like around my age, and they were all attractive. Like they were all very good-looking people, and they still are. But it, like, you know, just seeing them every day and me not being like, or just, I don't know, feeling some type of way about how I looked at, you know, I started getting really down on myself. I started really losing confidence, and I would just really say like negative things, but it was mainly about myself. And I hope I didn't project negativity onto people. I really hope I didn't, but I just know that I didn't feel like I fit in, or I didn't feel like I looked the part of being there, even though I for sure had and still have the skill set to do the job. But I felt very intimidated. I say all this to say that one thing I have noticed is how people talk to me, or to, you know, to one another. It always seems like people overall are just like a little bit negative. I don't know if it's just the culture of South Florida, or, you know, the people here can be kind of shallow. So it could just be like an overarching, what's it called? Like a personality or a culture of some kind. I don't know. Could be the heat. But I notice like people really talk negatively to one another. And as I said earlier, like we always hear misery loves company. I think I feel like misery is a gang, and like miserable people will literally jump you into this gang of misery to join. If you're familiar with how people join gangs, like usually like the people in the gang will jump somebody, like a prospect, like someone who's like, if you're familiar with like fraternities and sororities, where somebody's like quote unquote rushing to join the sorority, and like they would do like the hazing and all that. That's sort of the same thing with gangs, you know. So like they would, like, all the gang members would like beat somebody up who's like a prospect to join the gang, and then, you know, now they're in the gang. So like miserable people don't really know that they're in, like, that there are the people who haze other people to try to join this misery gang. And so they end up just really talking negatively to you, and it's sort of odd how people can just sort of, people that you're not even like that close to, you may have just known them for like a year, may have hung out a few times, and they will just sort of talk to you any which way. And you start to like really think about and really weigh in if this friendship is even worth it, if this relationship is even worth it. But they may not they may not be like the version of negative that you're familiar with. They may come in different ways, like miserable people, negative people. The way that people can like deplete your energy can come in different ways, like it, but it always feels the same. You always feel hella fucking depleted. You feel drained. You feel lesser than. You don't feel like you've gained anything. And it's actually possible to live a life where every interaction you have with people, you don't feel that way. It's possible to live a life where you feel every interaction you have with somebody is a positive, uplifting one, is a good one, is a non-judgmental one, is, a one that doesn't make you feel depleted. Like you can have interactions with people where you're just it's always good. It's always always ends on a good note. It's always positive. So it's always surprising when I meet somebody or like I start to realize like a downshift in a friend, and like I start to feel this way where my energy is getting sucked out of me, where my peace is getting blown into pieces. Where I just come out of the conversations like not gaining anything. It's like, oh, I really just hung out with this person and I didn't even laugh. I didn't even like really crack a smile. And it's not even like we were talking about something uber serious, like we could just be talking about work. And granted, yes, work can be stressful, especially the occupation, like if that person's like a nurse or like a teacher or like a police officer or just even like a manager at a Wendy's or like a Starbucks worker, because they've been trying to create unions and shit's been going down. But so I'm hoping that there'll be more Starbucks unions, just unions in general, like especially like Amazon. I believe like they definitely need those. And I get, you can have those conversations about work and it can be stressful. But like if you can't, I don't know, like make a joke, be funny, laugh about something at all, and if you start to like judge the other person, judge the person who's listening to you, start to belittle them or demean them or talk condescendingly or just, talk negatively, if you like kind of expect them to do things for you or like if they expect you to do things for them rather, or just, yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that. Like I recommend just either cutting them off. I'm bad about that. Like, not bad about cutting people off. I'm just bad at the fact that I do just cut people off. Like, I could just, like if you're not giving me anything, then I don't think this is this relationship, friendship, whatever, is just pointless. If I never come out of interactions with you in a positive note, it's pointless. You don't have to waste your time doing that. Like you really don't. when it comes to any sort of relationship, you should have people who are uplifting you, who are making you happy. And be mindful of that, because it's not that you both hate the same person at work and you like to make fun of the same person at work. That's like a different kind of joy. I, I say skeptically. That's a certain type of upliftingness, a certain, like, a different kind of friendship. But it has nothing to do with you or your hobbies or your interest or your pursuits, your personal interests, your personal pursuits that have nothing to do with another person. So if you were to go up to that friend who you like to make fun of that coworker about or something, and you go up to your friend at work and say, "Hey, bestie, I'm thinking about taking singing classes, doing singing lessons." And if they're not being supportive, then that's not your friend. If they start kind of talking like condescendingly, like you, if they're not like, trying to be like, yeah, it's like, "Oh, that's awesome. When have you, like, how long have you been interested in doing that? I didn't know you were into that. Like, what kind of music do you like?" If they're not trying to ask you questions about it or, uplift you, not make you feel like this is a bad idea, then that's not your friend. That person is either you're just going to keep it like that, just strictly talking poorly about that coworker, which is not a great friendship, or you just kind of let that friendship relationship kind of just disperse, because you really and truly need positive people in your life. You definitely need people who will give you energy, who won't try to destroy your peace, who won't try to like suck energy out of you. And yeah, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed listening to this. Please let me know what you think. Let me know how people may have disguised their misery, or how people may have tried to like knock you down a peg and you didn't even like really realize that that's what they were trying to do. That's another way how misery likes to show its ugly head. And yeah, definitely let me know. Thank you all so much for listening. This is great. I can see, the amount of people who, have listened, who have, listened to like my episodes, like episode 3, the gray area of social media. I gotten 7 plays. I think that's fucking awesome. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.